warm welcome to your Understanding Safeguarding session, brought to you by Solucious Equinox for online learning. My name is Phil Church, and I shall be your narrator and guide for this session. This presentation is brought to you by Solucious Equinox Training Solutions and our SETS channel for online learning, available on YouTube. Like and subscribe for more videos. The agenda for this session, after some quick introductions, the session will be on understanding safeguarding. And following that, there'll be some session feedback. You can either use the comments section on the video or you can email us for feedback. Our company background. Well, we were founded in 2018 after my co-director and I left the police earlier in 2018, after 22 years and 15 years police service. And these are just some of the companies and partners that Jason and I have had the privilege of working with since then. And these are the police services that we worked for, and whilst in the BTP, we were recruit trainers, training and teaching new recruit officers and transferees for 5 years. If you'd like to know more about us, please feel free to visit our company website at soluciousequinox.com. So for this session, have a think about what are your needs and expectations. Would you like to learn more? If so, please contact us at info@soluciousequinox.com. The aim of this session is for you to have an understanding of what safeguarding is at the end of this presentation. And to reach this aim, you will learn to understand the term safeguarding, understand national and local context of safeguarding and protection from abuse, know how to recognise signs of abuse and potential harm, and know how to respond if abuse or harm is disclosed. Well, what is safeguarding? It is the primary responsibility of organisations to keep people they are responsible for safe. So, here are some questions you may want to think about. Which organisations are we talking about specifically? What is safeguarding? And what would their safeguarding policies cover and why? Pause this video for 5 minutes and have a think. Welcome back. You may have come up with the following. Organisations such as local authorities, schools, nurseries, colleges, social care and the police. And for safeguarding, it's about protecting children and vulnerable persons from maltreatment, preventing impairment of children and vulnerable adults' health and development, ensuring children grow up consistent with the provision of effective and safe care, taking action to enable children and vulnerable adults to have the best outcomes. And some policies you may have considered. Weapons policies, anti-bullying and harassment processes, health and safety, conducting background checks, policies where concerns about another person are raised, identification requirements, safety and security processes, support for those organisations are responsible for, and risk assessment processes. There are some key pieces of legislation regarding safeguarding, and these pieces of legislation are Working Together to Safeguard Children 2015, the Children's Act 1989, the Children Act 2004, Children and Social Work Act 2017, Safeguarding Children in Education 2004, the Child Care Act 2006, Safeguarding Vulnerable Groups Act 2006, Children and Families Act 2014. Pause this video and research these pieces of legislation or ones that you find relevant to your organisation. Safeguarding, a right to stay safe. Various treaties, laws and policies. United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, 1989. 54 articles set out the rights and freedoms of all children, including those to ensure they are kept safe and cared for. Children are to be protected from all forms of physical or mental violence, injury or abuse, neglect, negligent treatment, maltreatment or exploitation, including sexual abuse by those looking after them. Countries signed up to treaty, including the UK, are legally bound to implement the legislation. Statutory Guidance Working Together to Safeguard Children. Published in 2015, it sets out how organisations and individuals should work together to safeguard and promote child welfare. There are versions for young people and younger children. And the guidance is for local authorities, maintained schools, academies and free schools. Legislation in England states people who work with children must keep them safe. Jobs involving caring for, supervising or being in sole charge of children or young people must have an enhanced disclosure and barring checks, DBS. DBS identifies whether someone is included in the 2 DBS barred lists of persons who are unsuitable for working with children and young people. Persons seeking to work with young persons or children must apply for a DBS certificate. There is now only one organisation that deals with all aspects of checking whether a person is fit to work with children and young people, the Disclosure and Barring Service, the DBS. Those who are barred regulated activity must not be involved in unsupervised activities such as teaching, training, instruction, caring or supervising children, providing advice on well-being, driving or transporting children. Work in establishments where an opportunity for contact such as schools, children's homes or childcare premises. They must not provide relevant personal care, and they must not become registered childminders or foster carers. Safeguarding is therefore in essence about protecting people's health, their well-being, their human rights, enabling them to live free from harm, abuse and neglect. Safeguarding, the difference between safeguarding and child protection. Child protection deals specifically with procedures to prevent children who are at risk of suffering or who are suffering significant harm due to neglect or abuse. Organisation safeguarding policies will include procedures to ensure the welfare of children is paramount, protect all children from harm and abuse, take all suspicions and allegations seriously and respond to them appropriately, and report all concerns of abuse to a designated safeguarding officer or appropriate authorities such as the police or social services. Child protection policies will include the name of the designated child protection officer at the early years setting and the senior manager who will support this person's role. A written statement outlining the early years provider's commitment to protecting children from harm from IT, including e-safety measures. procedures for early interventions where needed or where there has been a disclosure they are being abused or neglected, and a process for sharing information with other appropriate agencies or professionals. They will have written procedures detailing how to deal with situations in which a child or an adult is accused of abuse. They will include procedures on how referrals are made and to whom. They will include a written code of behaviour for all staff and children, and a whistle-blowing policy or procedure. Safeguarding, in essence, is how to protect and prevent harm. Child protection is doing something about it. And Victoria Climbié and Baby P are two very good examples of where child protection policies and procedures failed to intervene. You might want to research these two particular very sad cases. National policies and local systems. Policies, organisations and legislation make up a framework of systems to deal with safeguarding and protection from abuse. Working together, the system covers everyone involved in care, such as screening people who work with children and vulnerable people, raising awareness on safeguarding and protection, reviewing, developing laws and policies, monitoring standards and making inspections. National policies. The Care Act 2014 and accompanied statutory guidance. This legislation provides legal framework for adult safeguarding, and the statutory guidance is mandatory and must be applied when working with adults with care needs and their carers. The Statement of Government Policy on Adult Safeguarding 2013 is a statement about principles used by government agencies including social services, housing departments, health agencies and police. It sets out governmental policies and objectives to prevent abuse and reduce risks of significant harm to vulnerable adults from abuse or other exploitation, and supports individuals in maintaining control over their own lives to enable them to make informed choices. And the Disclosure and Barring Service. The DBS was introduced in 2012 by merging the Independent Safeguarding Authority and the Criminal Records Bureau. The DBS provides a joined-up service to combine all aspects of the previous departments together. Employers carry out checks using this service to ensure employees or potential employees are not barred from working with vulnerable persons. And there are checks such as a basic DBS check, a standard DBS, an enhanced DBS check, and an enhanced with barred list checks. Safeguarding roles and responsibilities in health and care services, Department of Health, local government associations, ADAA, NHS Confederation, National Police Chief Council 2013. The document gives guidance on the roles and responsibilities of key agencies involving adult safeguarding, and policies and standards issued by national regulatory bodies. There are different regulatory bodies for different parts of the UK. Each have their own policies which sets out standards and procedures for preventing, identifying and dealing with abuse. The bodies are the Care and Quality Commission, the CQC, for England Social Care and Social Work, Improvement Scotland, for Care and Social Services Inspectorate Wales, and the CSSWIS, Regulation and Quality Improvement Authority for Northern Ireland. Local systems, educational establishments. Schools, colleges, university staff members are responsible for safeguarding those in their care from harm. Each will have their own safeguarding policy in place with designated safeguarding leads who support staff in their respective duties. They will work closely with other services to ensure individuals are cared for. Each local authority must establish a local Safeguarding Children Board, or LSCB, in their area. These may cover more than one geographical area. Social workers take a lead role in responding to children and families in need of support and help, conduct inquiries following allegations or suspicion of abuse, conduct initial assessments and core assessments as part of assessment framework, chair strategy meetings and initiate and subsequent child protection conferences, and take court action to safeguard and protect children. Educational establishments coordinate implementation of child protection plans for children on the Child Protection Register, care and plan for children in council care, ensure looked after children are safeguarded in foster families, children's homes, or in any other placements. And the police. Police forces work closely with children's social care to protect children and all vulnerable persons from harm. All forces have child abuse investigation units, and their responsibilities are to make decisions on whether a crime has been committed and whether to investigate a criminal or instigate a criminal investigation. Gather evidence from social care and other agencies. To take emergency action to protect children in immediate danger of harm by removing them from those environments. And attending court and giving evidence. And finally, healthcare professionals. Healthcare professionals may examine children with injuries where there is a suspicion that they were sustained in a non-accidental fashion. They have a duty to alert social care when abused is suspected. Healthcare professionals can carry out evidential medical examinations or observations of a child or vulnerable person who has suffered abuse. They also contribute to care reports and may give evidence at court in criminal cases. Roles of agencies in safeguarding and protecting individuals from abuse. The CARE Act 2014, its main responsibility for safeguarding and protecting vulnerable adults rests with local authorities. Systems and procedures deal with all aspects of safeguarding and protection. Alert of abuse. The system has policies and procedures in place when someone is alerted or has suspicion that there has been abuse, or there is an allegation that covers agencies to be notified, actions to be taken, records to be kept, how evidence is gathered and preserved, management of information. Investigations, suspicions and allegations of abuse investigated, and the system sets out how investigations are handled, policies and procedures for members' agencies to work together to assess an alert of abuse, plan an investigation, conduct the investigation, review outcomes in order to learn lessons. Roles of agencies in safeguarding and protecting individuals from abuse. Supporting victims and witnesses. There is a coordinated system to support victims and witnesses between the various agencies. Allegations made against members of staff have specific systems in place, and these cover standards of practice and responsibility, mechanisms for alerting different authorities about suspicions or allegations, suspension of staff, record keeping, support and training and disciplinary processes. Safeguarding agencies local and national. At a local level, local authorities, police forces, NHS trusts, ambulance service, partnership mental health NHS trusts, probation service, local departments of Care Watch and Age UK and the Crown Prosecution Service. At a national level, the Department of Health, the Care Quality Commission, Office of the Public Guardian, Disclosure and Barring Service, Equal Human Rights Commission, local authorities, National Health Service and Carers Direct, NHS Service. Safeguarding. Serious safeguarding failures. Can you think of any high-profile safeguarding failures? Well, sadly, there have been far too many. Incidents and situations involving people such as Jimmy Savile, the Rotherham scandal, Dr. Harold Shipman, the abuse following a care home in Lincolnshire, Walton Hall hospital abuse, dismissed despite 100 official visits, the abuse was missed, an Essex care home, Southend, and sadly Victoria Climbié and Baby P. Unfortunately, things do sometimes go wrong and lessons need to be learnt to prevent failures from happening again. Sometimes failures or allegations of abuse come to the surface many years after they have happened. There have been failures where, due to unconscious bias, victims have not been believed by the police or care agencies. And two examples of that are Jimmy Savile and the sex abuse in Rotherham. Serious safeguarding failures sometimes hit the headlines, as we have just seen. Inquiries often find a catalogue of failures which have contributed to deaths, injuries, and serious abuse and suffering. And reports look in detail at various aspects, including how the agencies work together, the safeguarding checks and processes, background and history of the offender, actions of regulatory bodies and the professional associations, environmental factors, staffing levels, how inter-agency communications can be improved, inspection and assessment standards that were carried out. Sources of information and advice. What does your role expect from you or your colleagues in relation to safeguarding? Where can I find this information? Well, sources include your job description and employment contracts. Advice can be sought from your supervisors and managers, from organisation, companies' policies, procedures and training manuals, from health and care professions councils, and skills for care. Types of abuse. There are many reasons why people commit abuse, and these may include not knowing what a good standard of care is, not knowing about the care services available, having been abused previously and not realising what they are now doing is unacceptable, greed and abuse of power, frustration and experiencing stress, cultural traditions, not knowing it is unlawful. These are not and can never be excuses. There are numerous ways in which abuse may come to light. Victims may not know that they are being abused. Guidance on signs of abuse are never exhaustive. Types of abuse can be physical, sexual, emotional abuse, psychological abuse, financial abuse, material abuse, domestic violence, modern day slavery, discriminatory abuse, institutional abuse, neglect or acts of omission. self-neglect, female genital mutilation, and forced marriage. It's worth to note that these types of injuries or symptoms that you may expect to see may not be present. This does not mean that the abuse has not taken place. Not everyone will report being abused. Sometimes victims will withdraw allegations against abusers. What are the reasons for this? Take 5 minutes and have a think about what some of these reasons can be for. There are many factors and signs that can highlight a person's vulnerability. If you take the personal factors in their lives, such as a difference that they may feel that they perceive about themselves, their age can be a vulnerability, either very young, elderly, or frail. Their ethnicity can be deemed as a vulnerability for some people. The state of their mental health, the sexual orientation or perceived sexual orientation, their religion, their gender, and their disability. These are all personal factors that a person is enduring at this time and may have traumatic experiences involving any of these issues. If you look at the situational factors that this individual may find themselves in, they may be present with risky behaviour, may be participating in it, such as smoking a joint, alcoholic drinking, running away from home, shoplifting. The abuser being present, this could be at interviews such as clinics, doctor's surgeries, police interviews. The person who's actually carrying out the abuse is with them. They may be undergoing poverty. There may be a complete lack of support from either the community or services or from family. They may have had or undergoing grooming, whether that be for sexual purposes, for gang crime, or for terrorism. Their immigration status is a vulnerability in a situational factor. If they've come as an illegal or seeking asylum, people will take advantage of that. They feel that they have a complete lack of power and poor language skills. I'm not sure if you're aware, but if you have poor language skills and you're lost in this country, the police treat you as vulnerable. They may be isolated from peers, community, their family, friends. Maybe elements of coercive control from people around them. Family instability. One member of the family is coming and going. There could be parental conflict. And adverse community circumstances such as poverty, racism, homelessness, people being removed from communities, mass unemployment. If you take these two situations together with the personal factors and add together the situational factors, there is a harm or risk of harm for that individual. Actions, behaviours and situations that may lead to abuse. Certain actions, behaviours or environments are known to raise the risks of harm or abuse. By recognising them, you may be able to do something about it. The actions, their behaviours and the situations that these people are finding themselves in. Remember that their personal factors plus their situational factors equals a harm or risk of harm. Unacceptable behaviour of other people. Unacceptable behaviours by other people are those which leaves people scared or intimidated. It causes distress. It leads them to do things they don't want to do. It causes unhappiness. It violates the needs or views of others. Isn't the kind of behaviour that would normally fit in similar situations. Examples of unacceptable behaviours includes verbal abuse, treating someone with disrespect, sexist, racist comments or jokes, making threats, isolating an individual, or unwanted touching. Reporting a concern. What should you do? First of all, is there an emergency? Is there an immediate risk of significant harm? If the answer is yes, then call the police on 999. Then contact the designated safeguarding officer in your organisation or line manager. Then the designated safeguarding officer will manage the allegation in compliance to policies and legal obligations. If the answer is no, then make a careful record of what you observe or what you are told. Then contact the designated safeguarding officer in your organisation or line manager. Then the designated safeguarding officer will manage the allegation in compliance to policies and legal obligations. Actions to take if abuse or harm is disclosed, suspected or alleged. A person entrusts you with information of a personal nature. You have concerns about a person's physical, sexual, emotional well-being. You have a moral and professional responsibility to seek advice and support from your DSO. Any safeguarding concerns or allegations about a staff member, trustee, or volunteer must be immediately reported. Think evidence. Make notes of what's been alleged, your observations. Preserve the scene if there is one. Preserve any other evidence. And secure any CCTV. And do not touch or tamper with evidence. Handling disclosure. Do remain calm, approachable and receptive. Listen carefully without interrupting. Acknowledge you understand how difficult this may be. Make it clear that you are taking what is said seriously. Reassure them that they have done the right thing in telling you. Let them know that you'll do everything that you can do to help them. Make a written record of exactly what has been said. Do not promise confidentiality. Do not ask leading or probing questions. Do not investigate. It's not your job to investigate, it is the police's job. Do not repeatedly question or ask the individual to repeat the disclosure. It's traumatic enough telling you the first time without having to keep repeating it. Get it right and get it recorded the first time. Do not discuss the disclosure with people who do not need to know. And do not delay in reporting the disclosure to the DSO. You must ensure that all information remains confidential, and this should not be disclosed unless to a person in charge of an investigation, such as a manager, a police officer, a safeguarding coordinator. You must follow your organisation's policies. You must have all staff with copies of this policy and they must know its contents. You are responsible for keeping data and information safe. Information in whatever format must be kept safe and secure. Ordinarily, personnel information must not be disclosed without consent of the person it relates to. For children, this may not be possible. And the GDPR allows information to be shared to detect crime. If the person is at risk of serious harm, confidentiality can be breached. How your actions or statements could affect the use of evidence in court. Policies and procedures have been put in place based on legal requirements and best practice. They are frameworks in which employees can safely work through the protections they give. By following policies and procedures, staff can act confidently in the knowledge they are acting within the requirements of their role whilst protecting those they work with. Misconduct hearings against staff seek to establish if policies and procedures were complied with. Valuable evidence is easily contaminated, so every care should be taken. Organisations may be criticised where staff have failed to follow policy and procedures, causing reputational damage. You may also jeopardise investigations. Repeatedly using closed or leading questions could influence what a victim says and can contaminate their evidence, risking future trials at court. This also risks undermining the victim's credibility, or that of your organisation, or indeed yourself. By not maintaining confidentiality, not only would you be breaching your organisation's policies and procedures, you could potentially be breaking the law and could be prosecuted. Some cases have protections in place regarding the identities of the victims and/or defendants, and by allowing information into the public domain, this could seriously undermine a court trial and leave you and/or your organisation subject to legal action. How to access support. There will be occasions when you find yourself in a situation that you do not feel comfortable dealing with. It is important that you seek the appropriate help required, and you need to know who you can approach in those circumstances. Social services can provide safeguarding support. Care Quality Commission is independent and can provide advice on governmental policies. Care Direct is run by the NHS. This is a free helpline which offers advice to carers on various matters including finance, local health, social care options, respite services and transport, and professional bodies and trade unions. And finally, blowing the whistle. Safeguarding is not a subject to be studied for a qualification. Everything we do on a daily basis should be underpinned by safeguarding consideration. It should be woven into the fabric of every policy, procedure and action. On occasions, there may be instances where serious concerns you have flagged to the appropriate persons have not been acted on. Whistleblowing is the last resort when all attempts to utilise the appropriate channels have failed. A whistleblower will go outside of their organisation to raise their serious concerns, and in those instances, the law will protect that person from disciplinary action, dismissal, or bullying and harassment. So, to finalise, what do you remember from today? Take a moment to reflect on what we have covered. We're always interested to hear your feedback, so why not leave us a message on our SETS channel regarding this presentation, which I hope you have found informative and interesting. Thank you for listening.